Hello, guys, and welcome back to All for United. After what I would say is essentially the perfect weekend for us, we have just come off a 2-0 victory away at Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, with Anthony grabbing his, I think, fourth goal of the Premier League season. And I cannot remember the second goal scorer for the life of me, actually.
Oh,
cannot remember the second goal scorer. Dallo, that's it. Okay, yes. Dallo, we got a 2-0 victory, as well as Tottenham dropping points, Arsenal dropping points, Newcastle dropping points. It really looks like the top four race is kind of falling into our hands. We've been in this position before under previous managers, and it hasn't gone to plan, but this season is different. One more thing before we get into it. We are 59 points. We have 59 points this season, which is one more than all of last season, which is a sign of definite progress. We have 8 games left. I mean, the league, is it too wrong for me to say there's a chance? I had a little dream after the match that Arsenal and Man City both lost 5 games between now and the end of the season, and we won everything. Maybe I'm being silly, but I'm just a little bit optimistic. But as you can see, today I'm joined by John and Hammer. We should have Stu come in, but he will be running a little bit late, so obviously he will hop into the stream when he does arrive. But how are you guys doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. As you say, perfect weekend. Also, we'll touch upon the women. Yesterday, we're winning a thrilling semi-final, 3-2 against Brighton, and 89th-minute winner from Rachel Williams, and the first trip to Wembley for the FA Cup final, and we play Chelsea. So we'll be doing a match review probably tomorrow on the women's channel, and like you say, the men doing the business today as well. So, but yeah, a positive weekend for United.
A quick touch on the women's team, because that is a massive achievement for them. Congratulations, if any of you guys are watching, on getting to the FA Cup final. Do you think we can win it?
Well, it's a final, yes. We're playing Chelsea, who we've never beaten before. They're pretty much our bogey team. They will be favourites. I think they've won the last couple of FA Cups, and we've obviously never won something, so we will be the underdogs and that. But, it's a final, so anything can happen.
I think maybe being the underdogs could work in our favour. There's less to lose. And Hammer, how are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. It's been a good sports weekend for me overall. Yankees been playing well. Knicks won game 1 of the playoffs that they're in, and United topped it off today with a nice little win too. So I'm doing pretty good overall, man.
Absolutely brilliant. Everybody here is happy. We've got absolutely nothing to be upset about. And we've got a first comment here from RP Field. Bonjour, hello. Just here to drop my weekly Maguire stat. 23 games, 0 losses, 5 games, 5 clean sheets. Although you are right that Maguire is someone I do want to talk about today, not from an agenda I don't like in point of view, more of a bit of me personally, a confusion with Maguire at Manchester United. But what we're going to start off with today is the fact that we absolutely dominated them away from home. We all know that away from home this season in the league, we haven't been that good. I don't think we have a win against the top 6 sides away from home. If I'm correct, and if I'm honest, I was a little bit nervous going into today's game, purely based on the fact that I was not at Old Trafford. But I think we had 69% possession, and I was looking for something before the stream started of what team had the highest away percent possession in the Premier League this season, and I couldn't seem to find anything. But I would imagine that this is somewhere near the top. We played them off the park from the first minute to the last minute. Everything just looked fluid. It looked like clean running water. The comeback of Casemiro, Fernandes, and Eriksen as a trio in the midfield seems to work wonders. And we saw that up till Eriksen's injury, just how effective the intelligence, the quick passing, the movement, and the ability to play through the lines can be. I was going to start with you, Hammer. Is Eriksen's return probably the reason we're going to see a bit more consistency from Manchester United going into the back end of the season?
I mean, yeah, you can definitely place some credit to him. I think one of the things this season, though, and I think some of it goes down to the coaching as well, is just people have been playing better than they have, overall, or what we've seen from them. But yeah, Eriksen brings a level of control and a level of, calmness in that midfield that we lose with some of the other players that's in the depth in terms of our midfield. And when he's paired with, or trioed, whatever, right, with Casemiro and Bruno, I think him and Bruno play off each other well because Bruno is the high intensity and Ericsson is the calmness, and then Casemiro does what Casemiro does because he's ridiculous. But when you have all of them together, it brings a good balance to the midfield and a good control to our midfield. And when Bruno is playing like he was today as well, so so I'm saying, like, with Ericsson's calmness that he brings along with, if Bruno's hitting his passes and damn near hitting his shot, that little between him and Ericsson in that corner little routine that went off the crossbar. Holy, that was filth. Right. So when they're together and they're playing at that level, it really brings us a level of control and a level of calmness. And then, it comes down to him. And then you can just see it, right? When some of the games where we were struggling while he was out with that annoying injury that shouldn't have happened and should have gotten what's his name in some more trouble. We lost some of that control, and him coming back so easily as well. I'd like to point out that, he's had the injury and just seemed like he just hasn't lost a step. You know what I mean? He's come back into the flow of things. But yeah, he's doing wonders for us in the midfield, just like he was earlier in the season.
No, I agree with you there. I agree with everything you said, actually. But I'm going to ask John. Now that Ericsson's back in, one of the deficiencies of his game is his defensive ability. One match that always stands out for me, one particular instance in the match, was the match against Arsenal at the Emirates, Saka's goal. Ericsson was the guy, I guess, marking him, or he showed him onto his left foot, basically, which you don't do with Saka. There wasn't a tackle attempt. It was a very passive moment of play, and they scored. And that's something that we've seen a few times with Ericsson, almost pulling out of tackles or dangling a foot and something like that. Now that Ericsson's back in, that means McTominay, who has a bit more fight and steel to him, or Fred, who he's a very tenacious player, or even Sabitzer, who's a bit more similar to Fred than I would say Ericsson. Do you think that away from home, especially given our record against anybody away from home, the fact that we have less of a defensive presence in the midfield now is going to hinder us? Or do you think all of the attacking qualities and the other qualities that he brings will kind of overweigh that?
I think a lot of it depends on the opposition, how they set up. Like, for example, our record, I was looking at, so I think that's our 7th away win this season, and we've lost 6 away.
Yeah.
And I think I was looking at the table, and I think Fulham in 10th is the highest position in which we won away from home. But I think it might be Brentford 9th, and I think that's the highest team that we've lost to away from home. Basically, everyone that we played in the bottom half of the table, aside from Chelsea and Palace, we've won all those games. So it's quite unusual that we seem to win away from home against the teams in the bottom half, but in the top half we tend to struggle. And for me, a lot of it depends. Like we saw, particularly after the World Cup, and that Casemiro, Ericsson, Bruno combination won us a lot of games, but mainly at home. And I think the way Forest played today, they tried to put maximum effort into the game, and that allowed space for our midfield. And I think for games like Forest, when they're going to come on to you, we have better quality players. So for me, if you're playing against Forest, you'll get room in the midfield, and therefore you're able to exploit it. And that and Neville mentioned in commentary, if you give Ericsson, Bruno time and space, you're going to lose the game. So for me, it very much depends on our position. But like I say, if you have a bit more defensive work to do, then he's probably, a bit more of a weakness. You might want to put someone like Fred in there, possibly, or, McTominay for a bit more defensive responsibility. But for me, it very much depends on who you're playing and the way they play. And I think for games like today, it was to our benefit.
I agree with you as well. Me personally, I think that regardless of who we play against, I think we might be in a position now. Well, the teams we have left, we're not obviously going to be playing against a Man City or an Arsenal anymore. We've done that. I think the midfield trio needs to be the same every match. I do like Sabitzer. I do hope we sign him on a permanent in the summer. But for me, Eriksen does edge him, given the experience that the trio have this season. Haven't lost a game with Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, and Eriksen starting a match, home or away, this season. And I think, regardless of what people think about how Manchester United are performing, whether they think Bruno's good or bad, Casemiro's a liability or whatever, that trio is the most important section in our team. Everyone always says that, which is true. The midfield is the most important position on the pitch. And I think those three together, they complement each other perfectly. With Casemiro, you have someone who's going to slide tackle a brick wall to get the ball back. Bruno Fernandes is an endless amount of energy. And Eriksen he's both-footed. He's calm. He can play a pass. He doesn't ever look flustered. And I think out of the three in the midfield, he would be my favorite, if I'm honest. But talking about the defensive side of some of our players, Anthony and Jadon Sancho, they started on the wings today. Anthony is someone that I think partners with Wan-Bissaka better than Dalot. I think that should be, until the end of the season, our right-hand side. And until Rashford comes back, it looks like Jadon Sancho is going to be deployed on the left. Today it was Dalot, but it would usually be Shaw or Malacia. Now, I have a question for you guys about Jadon Sancho, because me personally, I watched the game today. I don't think he had a bad game. I think what he did when he got on the ball was positive. It looked more positive and effective than what he's been showing this season, in terms of when he gets the ball, he actually looks like he was sprinting today. Now, Nico Williams isn't slow, but there are times where Sancho was skinning him alive. And then when I went on Twitter after the match or during the match, it was Sancho, I don't want to see you in a Manchester United shirt again. You had a terrible game, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Because I see two completely polar opposite opinions on Sancho's performance today.
John, you mind if I go first real quick? Because I got some,
Sure.
I just got some fresh stuff in my head. That's why. I just feel like with Sancho, because I was thinking about it before, and I talked about it before on a different show and thing, is like, one of the things is he didn't settle great in the beginning as well in terms of overall, right? And then now this season he had time out and things like that, and he's coming back with not as much time. So for me, I think with Sancho, don't get me wrong, there's some people probably thought maybe should have came back sooner and stuff like that, but whatever, it was the physical and mental stuff that kept him out. As for me, it's a confidence thing going on with Sancho right now, and I think he has the ability to be an effective player for our team and what Ten Hag wants to do going forward. But he needs to start building that confidence. He needs to start taking more chances. He needs to start for example, today, from the stuff that I'm thinking about, is there were a few chances where he was in on goal. He had a shot, he had an angle, he had something where he could have taken a shot. Well, now whether it would have went in, got saved, whatever, but he kept cutting it back to try to play an extra pass. And that's good and all to have that mentality of looking for if somebody's open. But if you're in on goal like that and you got a shot, take a shot, and we'll figure out what happens next. So yeah, for me, I think it's a confidence thing, and I think he just needs some more consistency, right? He just didn't get the consistent start to the season, and he's now starting to get into it. So I think we'll eventually see it. Might need, unfortunately, I think he's going to get better as the season goes on and the season's coming to the end. We might have to wait until the start of next season to see how much he flourishes more in a better way in the Ten Hag system.
Nice. I'm with John. Do you think Sancho deserves to be starting the next match, which is against Sevilla? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we don't really have an option though, do we? So yeah, I think the thing with Sancho is I do agree he was a bit more lively today. Even the one criticism we've had of him is he doesn't usually take on players sometimes, and he did try doing that a couple of times, and he did look a bit more lively. Where I think his issue was a little bit today was I think he was guilty of playing a little bit too safe at times, and for me there was one where in the second half where I think, was it De Gea kicked out for him, he picked up the ball and he broke the offside trap, and then you see Martial just running through, and he the obvious thing would be to play Martial through, but then he took a step backwards, and that meant the defence got back into position and that. And for me, that's what Sancho needs to learn. He needs to be a little bit more brave on the ball, because there were times there where I was watching, I could see a player making a forward run and he didn't pick them out. He played it back or he played it sideways. And I think that's where he needs to start, being a bit more confident on the ball.
Yeah.
And that I don't think he had a bad game. I don't think he had a great game. I just think it was kind of like in between, I guess, in my opinion. He did obviously have a shot which went over the bar, and that obviously he's trying, and he was a bit better today, so I will give him credit for that. But I do think that he just needs to be a bit more brave on the ball and that. But hopefully that comes, and that's the danger. He's got opportunity now, so he needs to start delivering, because as soon as Rashford's back, if he continues to play like this, he'll be out the team again. So yeah.
I agree. With Jadon Sancho, obviously Rashford's out at the moment, so whether or not people think Sancho is playing well or not so well, he's going to be getting a lot more minutes. And I think it gives him the opportunity to try and build some consistency, because confidence is an important factor of, whether a football player plays well or not. And going back to something that Hammer said earlier on Sancho, there was a couple of times where he could have taken a shot and he cut back. I've played football before, and I've been in situations where if I'm not 100% going to put this in the back of the net, I might try and give it to someone else who I think might be in a better spot. And Sancho's not. He's never been a prolific goal scorer.
You also chronicle that chance he had in the first minute as well.
Yeah. I would be an angry coach, and I would yell at you. Fuck that. Take the shot. If it gets saved, you got 3 people running in behind you for a ricochet, or it's goalie saves it out when you get a corner. Take the opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you think Sancho might be too creative for his own good? Because like that shot in the first minute, you put your laces through that. He's tried to pass it into the side net. Like when I saw that, it was going in. It was an on-target shot. Fair enough. It got blocked, but you're just outside of the 6-yard box near the penalty spot. You have to put your laces through that.
I think he might have been a bit uncertain, because it's rare that you get a big chance like that in the first minute, and he probably was a bit surprised it fell to him, and that's probably why he was a bit like, what do I do with it? I think he would have just been better off just putting his boot through it. If the keeper makes a save, fine, but I think it wasn't a terrible shot, because it would have gone in the corner. I think it was a good block by the defender, in fairness to him, but I just think with Sancho it was a bit like that that Fulham when we got the penalty, and that, because he handballed it and it was going in, and that, but he handballed in, we got a penalty, but it's kind of like, well, why didn't you just put it in anyway, kind of thing. So for me, it was a little bit like that, but he needs like a goal and assist just to get himself going. I think once he gets 1, he'll probably get 2 or 3, and that, but he just needs to be a bit more confident.
But have you ever seen Sancho put his laces through a ball? I haven't. I don't think.
No, I think that's a problem at times, because there are times where you do require a cool head and placement. Other times just thump it.
Should I remember? To do both. It's like Zlatan. I think when he was here, I'm pretty sure it was here. I forgot I can't remember who the goalie was, but he hit he hit it as hard as he could from within the 6-yard box. And I'm pretty sure after the game, the goalie was like, I had to check my arm to see if it was okay, because he hit it that hard. Y'all remember? I was like, bro, you almost mess somebody's arm up just because you shot it. That's not
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Now there's a comment here from RP Field, which is something I did want to touch on. Dallo and Wan-Bissaka specifically has been absolutely amazing, in my opinion, in recent weeks. He's always been good defensively in terms of 1v1 defending. One thing which lacked was his back post defending, or defending headers or conceding a goal from a specific situation like that. But going forward, he was always a little bit suspect. But he seems to just be turning, or Ten Hag and his coaching staff are helping him just develop his game bounds and bounds, and it's absolutely amazing to watch. and this, I guess, newer coaching style of inverted fullbacks. I think we would have seen it, sooner at Manchester City, when their right and left back would almost be playing central midfield. Now, because we have Sancho and Antony who hug the touchlines as much as they can, it gives Wan-Bissaka and Dalot more time in the middle. I'm seeing Dalot and Wan-Bissaka pick up the ball in central midfield positions to create play. I just need your thoughts on Wan-Bissaka, because I'm more in the Wan-Bissaka camp now than I was maybe 3 or 4 months ago in terms of who gets that right back spot, and from now until the end of the season. But John, what do you think? Do you think, I know Dalot scored a goal today. He had a very good game. Do you think when we do get our starting left back, back into the squad, who goes into that right-hand spot?
Well, Ten Hag tends to vary it, doesn't it? Depending on what the game is and that. I think if you need a bit more attacking output, you will probably go with Dalot. But if you need a bit more defence responsibility, you probably go Wan-Bissaka. Unfortunately, I know, he didn't really have a choice. He had to pick both. It was just a case where side you put each on. And for me, Wan-Bissaka is obviously very competent. He's improving on the ball and that. And I think we all know he's very good at tackling. And, he is getting better as the season is going on. Dalot, I think that Dan's comment, it was impressive. I think, it was down to the room that Forest were giving us in the midfield. And that meant that, obviously Bruno and Eriksen dictated the game and that with passing all that. And you just look at that second goal, we did have many chances. You're just like, again, is it going to be one of those games where you're going to regret those chances? And then all of a sudden, you see Antony pick up the ball, and then you see Dalot making a forward run. And it's just like, who is that making that run? It's like, and it's partly down to Dan's point that they were coming more into midfield and that. And if he wasn't playing in the midfield, he wouldn't have made that run, and that's the thing. And it effectively won us the game, and he took his goal really well. So I think, both, and maybe that might be something you look at with Dalot, because it's like he's right footed, like Dennis Irwin was right footed. He used to play at left back and that, and sometimes maybe playing him at left back, coming inside and that probably helped him and maybe contributed to us, being more of a goal threat. But it was impressive to see. And like you say, I think who plays at right back, he'll vary game to game. And that's probably the one position that Ten Hag can say where he's got genuine competition between two players and that. And for me, that's our advantage. And I think he'll, with the number of games that we're playing, he'll alternate them. But they were very good today.
And Hammer, who would you be? We are in the market for a new right back still, apparently. Which one of the two would you be looking to replace?
Yeah. Ooh, damn, to replace. Well, I'm a defensive guy. Like when I did play football, I played center back and all that. I did unfortunately switch to American football eventually, and that was fun but stupid. But I love Wan-Bissaka because of his defense, and I think his improvement going forward. Yes, Dalot definitely has a better scoring potential in terms of what he can do with his feet and in the box and stuff like that. But Wan-Bissaka has been doing really well in terms of keeping the ball a lot better than he has in last seasons and actually playing some passes. So I'm going to take the higher defensive ability of Wan-Bissaka, and I would keep Wan-Bissaka at that right back position, because if he's going to continue to progress going forward, I get it. You might want that extra goal scoring, person, but if he's going to be that good of a defensive person and have quality going forward, I can't really, make that decision and go with Dalot.
Yeah.
And for me, I tweeted it out after a certain thing that happened in the game today. One of the things that I think's low-key been helping Wan-Bissaka get better at going forward is his decision making. He's not like lollygagging on it anymore and stuff like that. He's either making a pass or making a move. So yeah, I would have to go with Wan-Bissaka.
I'll tell you something interesting when people say he's more better attacking for goal scoring than Dalot. It's funny that that's Dalot's first Premier League goal today. Wan-Bissaka has 2.
Yeah. Well, when I say going forward, I just mean like better quality on a shot. Yeah.
As well.
I think one thing that you didn't mention, which I think is important for any fullback, is the relationship that he has with his right winger. Now, Anthony is our first choice right winger. He had a great game today. He is a contender for my man of the match. I still haven't really made up my mind yet. But the relationship that a right winger or right midfielder has with their right back is something that everybody has to take into consideration. That before you had Gary Neville and David Beckham, one of my favorite ones was, I get a bit underrated, was Rafael and Valencia. And I think that might have been the last duo we had on the right-hand side that had a genuine connection. And when it comes to Anthony and Wan-Bissaka, I think it's a very good, they just have like a telepathic connection. Anthony hugs the touchline and Wan-Bissaka is able to come in and create space or get the ball. He's always involved in the play in and around the area now, which he wouldn't have been maybe about a year and a half ago. But with Anthony, I think he's kind of come into his own recently, especially today. He's been getting on the ball. Same with Sancho. And it's not get the ball, beat a man, stop, cut back, and just pass it back. He's getting the ball and running, and he's using the speed and pace like effectively and efficiently. He got a goal and an assist today, which takes him equal with Mudryk, I think, in his Chelsea career, which is something that you can take to Twitter if you want. But
what level with Mudryk?
Yeah, Mudryk has 2 assists, and since he came to Chelsea, but Anthony got 2 goals and assists today. So that's something I see a lot on Twitter. It does get on my nerves actually, because I'm a big fan of Anthony. But do you think the price tag, which is something that RP spoke about here, is something that Anthony's going to have to prove, or do you think with all the inflation that's happening, with all the prices that people are paying for players now, they're all unreasonable? Do you think he's already kind of living up to it, Amma?
I mean, yeah, like you said, there's the inflation part to take into it, because you're having to pay crazy money for players who probably are quality players, but not, the ridiculous type of player you might want to pay some big money for. And in Anthony's case, some people might say he still needs to prove some of it, but I think he's only going to get better. He's really young. This is his first season in a league like the Premier League, right? He came from Ajax, right? So that's not a crazy league. And I think he's learning more of the league. He's comfortable playing playing under Ten Hag, because he's been, he's had it before and everything. So he's going to get better. And like I was on a show earlier and somebody asked, about, do you think he's going to get better next season? Yeah, I think he's going to get better next season when he's more comfortable, when he has more time under his belt in the Prem, and hopefully when we also fix that number 9 spot and we have a genuine striker up top. And then the only the bigger criticism I'll have for Anthony is just using that right foot, right? Like eventually you got to start using that. And the reason I say it, and I kind of talk about it before, like in any sport, is if you're overly dominant on one thing, like he is on his left foot, if you can get a little bit better on your opposite side on the right foot, just make them have to halfway respect you putting a shot in, you're going to get more opportunities on your dominant side, because they're going to have to respect the other side. So it'll just help him out and help the team out if he can just get a little bit better on the other side.
I agree. Something which everybody will have noticed, and I would say it's one of the biggest parts of Anthony's game. I'm going to get your thoughts on this in a second, John, is his similarity to Robben. He cuts in and he will take that shot, and he has scored a few of them this season already. He came close on a couple of occasions today. Do you think, John, crazy question, he won't ever be as good as Robben in my opinion, but do you think he can get close to what he's able to produce on a regular basis?
I think he's capable of going up, levels and that. I do agree with that. I mean, he needs to start using his right foot a bit more, but clearly it's a 10 out signing when it comes to proving the 80 million. I don't like the transfer fees, because what do you have to prove when you're 80 million compared to someone you pay 50 million for or something? To me, it doesn't. What you need to do, all you can do is judge on what you see, and obviously wasn't down to him. If we got him early in the summer, he would have cost about 50 million, wouldn't he? I think you can see with Anthony, there's something about him. He's obviously a fighter and that, and clearly Ten Hag admired him at Ajax, obviously, and he sees something in him, say that's you're the man for me in that position. And I can see why he is like a fighter. He does commit, and he's got a brilliant left foot, and I can see why you mentioned Robin, because he was almost all left foot and that. But for me, he played it very well today, and he got a very good poacher's goal as well, and he has scored a couple. I think he did the same against Everton in the FA Cup as well. So I do think he needs to also add. I think when a couple of times like today when we had the ball on the left hand side, we crossed the ball in. And Martial made a run to near post. Anthony was on his heels at the back post. He's like, you've got to be better at when you're a winger. If the ball's on the opposite side, you've got to try and get yourself into the box, into a goal-scoring position, potential. So I think that's an area he does need to improve. But for me, he will fight. I think the battle he had with the Sevilla player, Acuna, the other day, I think it was brilliant. I think you could see when he got the goal today, he grew in confidence and that, and it was a brilliant assist for Delo as well. So for me, he does have something about him. I think in time he just needs to become a bit more consistent. I think within 2 to 3 years, we could be talking about one of the best players in the league in that position, possibly if things go up on the trajectory. But he is a young player, he's a fighter, and I think he'll end up being a good player for us.
Now Jarvis says here, being said we must judge Anthony the same way as Garnacho and Pellistri. He's young and needs to learn the league and get experience. Patience is key and we will be rewarded. Now, I did want to mention the age thing when Hammer was speaking, because I'm only 23 and sometimes I forget that these footballers that we have at the club, these guys are 19, 20, 21 years old. I couldn't imagine playing Premier League football at 19 years old. Anthony, I think he's 21. I think he might be 22.
22?
22, I think.
Yeah, but he's got at least 6 or 7 years before he hits the heights, I guess, of what he's ever going to reach. But I think with the patience that we've shown him, even though it's not been a long time since the beginning of the season, he's beginning to show us now the type of player he was at Ajax.
So he's 23.
23? Oh, okay, he's older than I. He's same age as me then. He's just a little bit better than me, but obviously he's playing for Manchester United. So I think with the patience we've shown him this season, well, Ten Hag has shown him this season, he's been one of the main starters in the team, and I think it's really starting to pay off. But with someone else as well, who we've been rumored to be replacing, David De Gea, today, which is something I noticed specifically, his distribution is improving. You can see it improving. I think I noticed it against Sevilla. There was a back pass. It was quite a heavy back pass or something. He controlled it and he just looked calm. I haven't seen that sort of confidence in himself for a long time when it comes to controlling football. So his body language suggests that he's been working on his first touch. He's been working on the one touch and then getting it out to his fullback or getting it out to his winger. He's starting to ping balls so much more effectively than he was doing just maybe even a few weeks ago. I can't remember who said it, so I'm not going to make up a name, but I saw on Twitter the other day, it was a podcast. It was quite a well-known podcast talking about how one of the potential replacements for David here that we've been linked with, David Raya from Brentford, the Spanish keeper, has a lower passing accuracy than De Gea. And if we're all honest, we do need to replace a few players in this team, but De Gea definitely is bottom of that list. I think today especially, he didn't really have that much to do because we were solid. We did dominate the game, but I'm going to ask Hammer first. And then, John, would you be looking to replace David De Gea, or are you going to let him, or are you going to try and give him the chance between now until the end of the season to really show you that he has improved that distribution, he has improved his footwork, he has improved his, I guess, sometimes decision making. Would you give him the chance, or have you already made up your mind with David De Gea?
Well, in the sense you can do both because we're not we're gonna have to see how he does for the rest of the season. Yeah, I agree that it is improving. Like even today, he had a nice little pass over the top. I think it was later in the game to Sancho, right? He got it right over the guy's head and right to his feet. That was a nice little one right there. And yeah, like I said, he is doing better. But I kind of am leaning more towards replacing. And yes, don't get me wrong, I get it. Some people are still defenders of De Gea because he is still a ridiculous shot stopper and all that type of stuff, and at times and everything. But I think both in terms of, and some people might kill me for this and tell me it's not FIFA, but both in terms of age and just in terms of moving into a new era under Ten Hag, I think you want somebody who is still getting better, but also has better quality because I think people do know or agree now that keepers nowadays need to be able to pass, need to be able to distribute. So somebody who's already and came up in that generation of keepers. So just a younger keeper. I know De Gea loves United. I don't know if his I don't want to say I'm saying ego, but not in a negative way. But I don't know if his level of mentality would be okay with him taking a step back and let's see if we can get a young guy, up and coming guy in the summer and let him try to gain the first team spot with De Gea sitting there saying, okay, if the kid's struggling, we'll put you back in the first team, that kind of thing. But yeah, so technically my answer is I would move on, or at least begin the process of moving on because I think it's needed eventually for the progression under what I hope is a new long era under Ten Hag.
And John, what do you think as well? Would you be looking to replace him?
I think, eventually we will need to replace him. I do agree there were a couple of nice passes he did today. I think there were a couple of balls he did also give away as well, which was a bit needless as well, which could have had us bothered. So for me, it wasn't perfect. But like you say, yeah, he did play a long ball, Sancho. There was also one on first one where we had a goal kick. He passed it to Lindelof. Lindelof passed it back to him and he played it to Eriksen in the midfield, and that's helped an attack for us. So for me, it was good at times today, and also a couple of times where it didn't work. And that for me, my issue with De Gea is not for me the pass out from the back. It is an issue, but for me, it's not the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is commanding, his airing. You saw, with Forest, putting pressure on him, from corner kicks and that. And the thing is, a few times it was lobbed into, like the 6-yard box and he wasn't coming to claim it. And but, Maguire handled the ball and that. And for me, that's where there were a couple of times where I'm like, where is the keeper? Surely if it's in 6-yard box, you should be, dealing with it. You should be knocking players out of the way and all that. So for me, that's what his main weakness is. That we will need a keeper who's a bit more commanding, take that pressure off the defence of that. But having said that, we did keep a clean sheet and that. And for me, it didn't matter that much today. I thought his distribution was decent at times. Areas should improve as well. But for me, eventually, I think we'll probably need a new goalkeeper.
I do agree with you. I agree with both of you, actually. I think we do need to replace him, but I don't think he should be the priority to replace. I don't think I don't think he will be at the top of the list. And if we go into next season with him still our first choice keeper, I wouldn't have any problems with it. But given the clean sheet we got today, that does make him the current winner of the Golden Glove. He's on 14 clean sheets. Nick Pope, I think, is on 13. Ramsdale on 12, and I think Alisson on 11. So I guess it will be obviously very good if he could complete the season and win the Golden Glove. But the clean sheet today, I think, was also down to the centre-back partnership. We went back to Maguire and Lindelof at the back. Admittedly, Maguire had a shaky start to the game, and I was worried because he did pick up that yellow card. At first, I thought it was an unjustified card, but then, the replay did show that it was a foul and it was a yellow card. And I was scared because I thought Awoniyi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was going to run him ragged. And we're talking about a striker who's only got a couple of goals this season. Not very good. He's not a very good Premier League striker. And I was thinking, Maguire's a club captain. He is a very good footballer. You're not a bad footballer if you play for Manchester United or England, or he's done it throughout his career. We can't fault him for that, and I think some people need to remember that. But if you're going to get spun round by a striker who's been struggling this whole season, I just don't know. I don't know if this is the right club for you. But his partner at the back, Lindelof, who is a candidate for my man of the match, was pretty much flawless. And we will be moving one of them on in the summer. I think it's a given now. I would definitely be keeping Lindelof. He looks so smooth and so composed and almost a bit like John Stones. They got the same body type. They got the same boots. They got the same way of passing the ball, receiving the ball. I think that between now until the end of the season, obviously we haven't got Martinez anymore. I'm not sure how long Rafael Varane is going to be out. But I think Maguire does need to get dropped in the nicest way possible. And then when Luke Shaw does come back from his injury, it's going to have to be the Luke Shaw at left centre-back. Is that something you would do as well? Or would you keep Maguire in, keep that momentum going? Because we did just get a clean sheet, John.
I think it obviously depends on the game. I think Ten Hag is going to have to use his squad anyway. And, we missed Shaw at left back on, Thursday night, didn't we? Yeah. So I do think he'll slot left centre Amala. And I think the Brighton game will be interesting. If Luke Shaw comes back, it'll probably be Lindelof and Shaw and, maybe Malacia left back. Although Malacia missed the game today, didn't they? So I think that... I think the central partnership, obviously, I don't mind Harry Maguire, but you can't lie that the start of the game wasn't, the best from him, and that obviously got booked in the first minute. I do question why we're playing such a high line that early in the game, to be honest, and they did get spun, and he had a couple of nervous moments about a penalty appeal. That might be the look that changes for him, He got the own goal the other day, and he may have got away with a handball today, but sometimes you need that look and that. But I think after the first half an hour or so, I think he was a bit better. I think he was a bit calmer in the second half and that. So I do think he did grow into the game and that. And for me, we were more assured as the game went on defensively. And of course, Forest didn't have a shot on target, I don't think, today. So that's good. As for Lindelof, I agree. I think it was flawless today. I think he did some, brilliant defensive headers. There was one time where he broke out towards the end of the game and that. And I think the thing between the two, I've said, I do agree one of them has to go. I'm not certain either way which one it should be. I think they both have different qualities and different weaknesses. But I do think Lindelof's advantage is that obviously our main centre-half partnership is Varane and Martinez. I think if one of them's taken out, maybe Lindelof's the better person to go in and slot, in between them and that. But the positives of Maguire's game, he is better, heading the ball out and that. And if teams are launching balls into box, you want him on the end of it and that. So for me, that's where Maguire's a bit better than that. But I think eventually, obviously, hopefully Varane comes back at some point. I did say on the show on Thursday who's going to have a big end to the season. I actually said Lindelof because he's one who will probably be picked for most, if not all, the games until Varane comes back. So for me, he did very well today. It was a positive sign. Hopefully he'll continue to do so over the next few weeks.
Would you agree with that, Hammer?
Yeah, more or less. I think, Maguire did struggle at times, but he was relatively able to clean some things up because I guess they played in his favor. I agree especially with the high line thing. I don't understand. And it's something I commented about before. I was like, and I don't know if it'll work. I just like thinking of different sports when I'm watching other sports. And like in American football, the NFL, if you're defending a receiver who's fast, you give him a couple yards. So I don't understand why Maguire's always up in a striker's ass when he knows he's slower than a fucking turtle. Like, give them some space so you have space to turn and run. Don't try to be right next to them and then keep up with them when they're running. And there's different, you also just who you're playing against too depends on how that works. But anyways, I think he did okay, and yes, he had some rough parts. Lindelof played well as well. In terms of the end part of that, I would definitely keep Lindelof over Maguire. I think Maguire's biggest weakness, as I just mentioned, is his speed, and unfortunately, you can't really do too much to make up for that. And when you want to play how we're all assuming, at least I think we're all assuming Ten Hag wants to play, you need somebody who can at least have some level of speed to keep things moving and keep up with people. So I would move on Maguire and essentially try to look for a younger, another big-bodied center back, but somebody with obviously at least average to above average pace, who's not going to get spun around all the time.
And that is where you start talking about Kim from Napoli, who probably would cost around 50 million, I think would be a perfect replacement for Maguire. But that is something that we will talk about in the summer.
Yeah.
But Martial
arguing in the comments. Dan and Dan.
Jarvis says here, Maguire was an accident waiting to happen, and I guess it almost did with what I think probably should have been a penalty. I would be annoyed if we didn't get given that, for us. He almost made an own goal. He almost got a red, and he almost created a penalty. My nerves can't handle Maguire on the pitch.
That's what I recommend smoking. I mean,
I think it's so tricky with Maguire because he does have a lot of qualities. We can't sit here. Not us, but I think people in general can't sit down and have a serious conversation and say that Maguire's rubbish. He's not good at anything because he's good on the ball. When he has the ball at his feet, he's good. I think when he has the ball at his feet, he does make good decisions. He can switch to play. He can take the ball out of defense. He can defend in terms of in the air. It's just his movement and his mobility that is his biggest concern. And Hammer's right. I think when we do want to be playing with a higher line, you will be more susceptible to the counter-attack. And if you have Varane and Martinez, or if you have Saliba and Gabriel or Araujo or Rudiger at the back, you can make up for someone's just going to try and run against us. Oh, look, don't worry, we have Rudiger at the back. He's going to be able to handle him by himself. But when it's Maguire in that specific situation, your heart's in your mouth. You're on the edge of your seat and not for a good reason. And I think, me personally, for that reason only, that would be the reason why I keep Lindelof over him. But there is someone else, Anthony Martial. He's back from injury and he's lighting the world on fire. His performance against Sevilla was absolutely amazing, and I think he had another very good performance today as well. He did start above Weghorst, who has been obviously playing in his absence. But what you get with Martial is someone who's so technically sound on the ball. His first touch is pretty much impeccable every single time. He's not the tallest, but he's not the shortest, but he's physically strong enough to be able to hold off a defender or a centre-back who's behind him, wait for runners to come, just like what Sabitzer did against Sevilla, and create stuff. He can link up with play and all of that. But one thing I have noticed, which was today, I think John spoke about it earlier, 2 balls that flew across the goal. Haaland gets on the end of those. Kane gets on the end of those. Osimhen gets on the end of those. A striker, an out-and-out striker, we would have had 2 more goals that game. Is Martial someone that we keep past the summer transfer window? Because if I'm honest, I'm completely torn. I don't know. Sorry. Oh, I don't really care.
Sorry, go on, Amber. Go on.
All right. Yeah, no, I'll make my case. I think one of the biggest things, obviously, that everybody knows is Martial's injury. So I don't think he can be your reliant first choice striker.
Yeah.
But he does have some really great qualities. And I think with today, one of the issues, I don't know, it is somewhat how he plays as well. He was doing a lot of stuff on the edge of the box, moving out to the sides and stuff on the build-up. So I think he just also wasn't making those type of movements to be in that spot with those balls across the front, even though he should be, as he said, because that's, a proper number 9 is going to do that. But with Martial, I would actually keep him, but I would still get a number 9, and I would just make Martial our bench striker, because Martial off the bench would be some ignorant shit, and him coming off the bench would hopefully mitigate some of his health problems, because he's not going to be having to run out 90 minutes or attempt. Well, I mean, shit, he hasn't done that on 3-4 games in a row in years. But I feel like the quality he brings, and like you said, his link up with people at it. I used to think it was mostly with Rashford, but shit, it doesn't matter. He can do it with Anthony. He can do it with Rashford. He can do it with Bruno. He was doing it with freaking Savage, right? Like he can do it with whoever's on there. So I think having him in the squad is still helpful, but his health is an issue. So I would still get a number 9, and I'd keep Anthony as our backup striker. Or Jesus Christ, Martial. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, with agree with Hammer. I think if he was to stay fit, then he'd be useful. Like if you were to get someone like Harry Kane in, for example, you could alternate him playing the odd game, bring him on as a sub, and that might work with his injury. Whether he'd be happy about that, I don't know. So for me, I think it's a question of whether he can stay fit or not. Unfortunately, I don't think he can. So, unfortunately, it might be that we have to look at, releasing him in the summer now. I think Ten Hag, if he could stay fit, would like to keep Martial. And there's no question we are a better team when he's playing. He's not playing many games season, but when he has played, he has looked good. And we look a better team as a result of that. But I do agree, we are missing an out-and-out goal scorer, and I think, that's the difference. Like games like today, games like the Sevilla game, games like, the Everton game, if you have a top-class striker, you probably win all of them like 4-0 or something, honestly, and that's make them one big thing that we're lacking. I think everything else we're pretty much covered. Obviously, we can talk on maybe box midfielder, another centre half, that kind of thing. But for me, I think the number 9 is the gaping hole. But that being said, if Martial could stay fit, he could do a job. But it's a question whether he'd be happy about that, because as we know, Martial Swan does sense it whenever we get, a player like Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic, Cavani, that kind of thing. So for me, you got to watch out for that. But he has been positive, and we're a better team when he does play, and he played well today.
I agree. As I said, I'm torn about what to do with Martial. I think if I had the final say, it would be, if you remain, fit for the rest of the season, you play every game, then we keep him. We do still sign a striker, but it would depend on what striker we sign. If he does get, I say, one more injury, no matter how small or big it is, I think we have to let him go, because Hammer's right. He's not reliable. And I don't think any quality is better than your reliability and availability. Look at Bruno Fernandes. Whether or not you like him, he's there every match, 90 minutes, 99% of the games, and he's one of, or if not our most important player. But with Martial, yeah, he plays 2 or 3 games in a row and then he's out for how many months? I think someone like Evan Ferguson, I'll keep speaking about him, from Brighton.
Well, apparently he's out of the game next week.
Thank God, because against our partnership at the moment.
Danny Welbeck's there.
Well, see, this would be just a real question on that too, right? So getting rid of Martial as well, just to continue a little bit on the conversation, we would then need a number 9 and a backup, because I don't think we're keeping Weghorst at this point. We're sending them back to wherever. So we would have to get 2 strikers, So that's another reason in my mind of that. You know what I mean?
To be honest, I think you sign Ferguson regardless of who's at the club or not. You have to get him in, whether or not you get him and Harry Kane, loan him back to Brighton if you don't want to drop Kane.
Don't get me wrong, I know he's been playing well, but I think some of y'all just want to be over there and be able to yell Ferguson scores a goal.
No, Ferguson did used to be a striker in his day.
Wasn't it at Aberdeen, or am I wrong?
No, he was manager at Aberdeen. I think he actually played for Rangers, and I think, in fact, there was a famous game in the 60s. I think, was it Dunfermline he played for or someone, and he was going to miss the game. And Dunfermline had a big game at Ibrox, and they managed to win 3-2, and Ferguson got a hat trick.
Oh shit! There you go.
It's like there was a famous picture of him with the newspaper saying the man who shook Rangers. You know, it was quite a big. It was a brilliant striker, Fergie, in his day.
I mean, the stars are aligning. Ferguson has to be signed this summer. Okay, so I'll say if Martial gets shipped out, then you sign Ferguson and have him as a backup for someone like Harry Kane. I'd say more so than Osimhen because, like Martial, he is an injury-prone player. But if we do keep Martial, if he does keep fit until the end of the season, then you sign Ferguson as well, and I think you rotate them because with Martial, you have the most complete front line we can possibly field with Rashford on the left, Martial through the middle, and Anthony on the right. Then you can rotate him. Say he does pick up an injury and he's out for a few games. Guess who's there? Evan Ferguson. I think Evan Ferguson is an essential signing this summer, and I hope that we do go through with it because it just seems a bit too obvious not to do. Now, talking tennis, I haven't ignored this. I just wanted to leave this until the end. Yes, it's been a good weekend, and I believe we have one game in hand over Newcastle, who are below us, and 3 points behind us. So if we do win that game, we could be 6 points ahead. Top four is in our hands.
Newcastle and Tottenham play each other next week as well.
I didn't even know that. That's a 6 pointer, really, isn't it?
And then we could play Tottenham away, and so
I hope
we'll in the top four one way or another next week.
I hope next week the dickheads on both sides miss all their shots and it ends in a 0-0 draw.
Yeah,
a draw would be the perfect result. But if we do manage to screw this up, then I think it's unlikely, but I think it will be extremely disappointing. I can't see us losing even third spot. I think we will finish third. And as I said, I don't know if I said it at the beginning of the stream or before, but I hope there's a chance that Man City and Arsenal could lose 5 of their next 8 games. And we could win it all. We could go for the quad. It's still on, boys.
I think he might be rolling something a little more than me.
I'm a believer in it. If you finish above City, you're in the league. I think I said when we were considering title race a couple of months back, and I said if you got to go for City, I don't think City will drop.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we're
the thing.
points behind them. Then
I think there's a bigger chance. I was going to say I agree with you. I think it's a bigger chance Arsenal drops a bunch of points than City also dropping.
It's happening already.
I mean,
it's happening.
Arsenal is, but I don't think City's gonna. They're gonna win the right amount of games.
I mean, I don't want to say.
I think the crucial game there is obviously the one at the Etihad on the Wednesday night, and I think you see over Arsenal today, didn't you? There was one gunner who made a video about us, conceding 2 late goals via 2-0 up. It's what happened to you again today, so
I don't want to say I told you.
I honestly think it will be City that win the league. Now, I watched Arsenal before, and I just think they're just caving under the pressure. I can see it. They didn't know how to deal with it.
The young guys
and that. So, and I think if you look at how Arsenal played today, apart from the first 7 minutes, City will wipe the floor with them. Yes, I think.
City have been here before.
It's the vets versus the young guys, and the young guys are.
I think this might be either the 5th season or the 6th where they've had to pretty much win every single game until the end of the campaign to win the league. They've done it before. Pep's done it before. A lot of their players have. I have a lot of. I'm from London, so I have a lot of friends that are Arsenal fans. And I've been telling them I'm not worried. I don't want City to win the league, but I also don't want Arsenal to win the league.
I think it's for different reasons, right? Like I think City, you don't want them to keep getting the league, and then Arsenal, you don't want them because their fans are going to be so goddamn annoying.
Yeah, my brother's an Arsenal fan as well, so that's going to be a long conversation over a few weeks. But with Manchester City, I think the only stress we have is the three-peat. It only really dawned to me the other day. I don't know how I forgot. We've done it twice. So, if anything, I'm a bit less annoyed that they might do it once because we've done it twice. But then the problem is who's stopping them next season?
Well, I
Hopefully
think
us.
that they return City, it's a treble, isn't it?
That's too.
I don't think they'll do it, but
No,
I
me
think
neither.
they'll probably have to play Real Madrid next round and that, and that's why. And and we might have to play them in the FA Cup final, might we? Depending on
somebody picks Holland.
Well, we got to play Brighton twice, and I think City have to go to Brighton and Brentford away as well. So it won't be. I can see City maybe slipping up in a game.
I can't. That's the thing. Because
I don't think they can win if they're on 3.
Oh, that's what you mean.
For 3 trophies. I can't see them.
One of them they're going to slip up.
Single game. I think they'll slip up at some point.
I don't think
give it to us. Let's go. Now I just want a Manchester Derby FA Cup final so we can screw them out of the treble. Wouldn't that be great?
I think in finals as well. Well, wasn't the last final or Wembley match Manchester United played against City for a trophy was it the Community Shield?
Yeah, we've never played them in a domestic final.
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy, but it was the Community Shield where Nani scored twice.
Yeah, that's it. We've never played them in a final.
It'd just be fun, is all I'm saying.
I think we'd win. I think we'd win. We beat them at home, and they beat us at their home, a neutral ground.
Yeah. I mean, not to be cocky on it, but like their two main people are De Bruyne and Haaland. So if you can figure something out against one or both of them, you have a chance.
Yeah. We're gonna go to this question that Jarvis has so kindly provided, and then we're gonna end off with who your man of the match is. So start thinking about that. Jarvis says, question: if we secure top 4, would you take the FA Cup or the Europa League? For me, the Europa League.
For me, FA Cup. We've never won the League Cup and the FA Cup in the same season, and I don't want to beat City in the final.
Yeah.
True.
That's true too. And I mean, shit. Actually, it doesn't really matter if we get top 4, we get Champions League, or so it doesn't. I don't give a crap. Like, because the reason I say that because I think I was on a show last week or a couple weeks ago, and somebody asked something similar. And it was like, would you guys prefer top 4 or top 3 and no trophies, or would you prefer both trophies? And I was like, well, if you got the Europa League, we're in the Champions League anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, so as long as we get Champions League, that's my answer.
That's it. That is a good answer. So John's got the FA Cup and Hammer just wants Champions League, which is fair. Now, guys, if you want in the comments as well, let us know who you think your man of the match is. But I'm going to start with John here. Who is your man of the match and why?
I think the obvious as well be, Bruno got the award and all that. But for me, I'm going to give it Anthony. I think he took his goal really well. Poach has gone. It was a beautiful through ball to him, to Dalot for the second goal. And for me, I think his all-round game, he looked lively, he looked active, he looked a goal threat. And for me, he just it's possibly one of the best I've seen him. Possibly it might even be his best performance in the United shirt. And I just think he played brilliantly for the whole 90 minutes. And he was the one who most responsible for us, getting the win today. So I'll go with Anthony.
Okay, so that's one vote for Anthony here. What about you, Hammer?
I am going to go also because I said it before too on an earlier show that I'm going to go with the match that the guy who got it in the real game, and that's Bruno. I think today he was just and I'll put it this way too. If he had scored one of those goals, he would get it easily. You know what I mean? So he was just all over the pitch. He was making things tick. Him and Eriksen as a combo was at a different level. Even as good as we loved them earlier, they were both great today. I'm going to go with Bruno just because while him and Eriksen were doing well together in the midfield, Bruno was the one getting those final passes in and those shots and everything. I'm going Bruno for me.
Okay, so I guess it's 1-1. I had 4 people that I was thinking about. You had Lindelof, Dalot, Bruno, and Anthony. Now, I don't think you have to get a goal or assist to be man of the match, which Bruno demonstrated today. for like the actual match. So I'm going to go with him as well, because he just really didn't do much wrong. And I think when you think about the amount of games he's played,
he missed a big chance at the end of the first half, wide open space. I'm marking him down for that.
You could easily give Bruno a 9+ without a goal or an assist today, and I think that for me says a lot about how good he was. The combination with Eriksen, it's like they hadn't seen each other in ages, and like they were like old school friends.
It's
like Eriksen never left, and I think a lot of that goes down to the individuals involved. So much stuff, criticism gets thrown Bruno Fernandes's way because of the standards he sets himself in terms of his direct goal contributions. You might look at the stats today. I saw a stat; it was 57% pass completion or something, but I feel like that's wrong. But when you look at what he was trying, the stuff that comes off, it was 57 or 79, 57 or 79% possession, pass completion for Bruno Fernandes. But the stuff that he tries on the ball and the stuff that comes off, it cannot go unnoticed. He was all over the pitch today. He plays as central midfielder, but he's out on the right, he's out on the left, he's dropping deep, dictating play. He's in the ref's ear, he's in his teammates' ear. He's doing literally everything. I think he had 3 shots. One was almost an actual screamer. And
that was almost like Rooney's free kick goal.
Yeah.
Was that when he broke? Did he break the record with that? Am I thinking?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous to do that, by the way, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was that one where he tips onto the bar, wasn't it? Yeah.
Great
but like I say, he missed a sitter as well.
Oh, well.
I didn't realise what it was like at the time, and then I realised it's like, he's got this. It's like the market was as wide as the River Trent, wasn't it?
Well, and there's one thing I'll say about Bruno too is, and I know people get frustrated because that's what we all get frustrated when he misses some of his tricks and flicks and stuff. But when he's on, like today, or even a little bit less than today, but when he's on, one of the things I like, and you need it in all sports, in my opinion, right, is he's one of those players that I feel makes everybody else around him better. Yep. Like people get more chances. It's a little bit smoother when he's on and all that type of stuff. So I think that's really important in any sport to have that type of player in the squad.
Jarvis makes a good comment. Eriksen as well. Because he wasn't meant to be starting today. If ever there was someone getting injured in warm-up, help contribute to a great performance. Eriksen at short notice had a brilliant game today. So, yeah.
Let's also hope that because it was a groin injury, I think I heard. Let's hope that's not serious. Let's hope it was just he got
tweaked. Groin, isn't he? So.
I think if Sabitzer gets injured, that makes it 11 players.
Look at that, we can get a whole squad.
It's terrible.
Did anyone hear why Malacia was missing?
No,
some
I
type
didn't.
Of injury. He picked up some type of knock. I know that, but I don't know. I can't remember if it was in the last game or if it was something other than the game.
I mean, I didn't actually hear. I didn't even realize Malacia wasn't on the bench, I think, until halftime when I checked my phone, to be honest. I was quite tired. I'd just woken up. So, nothing crossed my mind. But let's hope Sabitzer's not seriously injured and Malacia, when I eventually find out what's wrong with him, let's hope it's not too serious because we do need them back as soon as possible. If we can get as many players back sooner rather than later.
Malacia, a supposed knee injury. But that's very generic, so I don't know what's the knee injury.
I don't know. I just, when someone says knee injury or like a hip injury or something, it's just it doesn't seem good.
It's like he played like he was injured the other day.
Let's not talk about that. I cannot believe he let the ball bounce.
It's terrible.
I don't think he knew Navas was behind him, but that's besides the point. It was a terrible mistake and definitely was the reason that they got the momentum and grabbed the second goal, which unfortunately was a Maguire goal. Had nothing. It wasn't his fault. And I've seen a lot of people absolutely drag him through the dirt for that. So the last comment from Jarvis before I do wrap this show up. The thing with Eriksen was he made everything click. As soon as we have a player like him, we see Ten Hag will dominate midfield, shift and play with tempo and involving the whole front line. And he's right. He's just so slick. 1-2 touch. He's not taking 4-5 touches like some of the midfielders that we have. It's just quick. And when you're passing,
Sorry.
and when you're passing the ball quick, you give your teammates more time. And the same with Bruno. I think John said it. I can't remember which one of you said it, but he makes the players around him better because when Eriksen gives Sancho the ball or when Fernandes gives Sancho the ball, he has a couple more seconds before he gets pressed or before someone tries to tackle him. I know 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're playing football at high speed, 2 seconds, you got half an hour. That's half an hour in your brain to think about what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? How am I going to execute it? It's just when you're a very good player, other players will get better because it's almost like you rub off on them. And I think with Eriksen back in the squad, that trio in the midfield that we have is the best we could possibly field. And I think if we can keep it until the end of the season, I don't see why we don't go finish third, win the FA Cup, and get to the Europa League final at the very least. I've got a lot of confidence going forward. We just need to get some of these players back from injury. But before we end, where can we find you guys, Hammer? Where can these guys come and annoy you on?
It's mostly on Twitter, and as I said, I was on a show earlier, so I ended it the same way. That way you can check me out there, and if you want to see some ignorant fan stuff, the Knicks are in the playoffs for the first time, or not for the first time in a while, but the first time playing very well in a while. We took game 1, and if we sweep the Cavs, I'm going to lose my shit, and you'll probably see it happen on Twitter.
Is that basketball?
Yeah, basketball, man. Knicks haven't won a championship since the 70s. All right, I was born in 96, so it's been a long goddamn time. But we're playing well. It's a great team. I think we got the advantage in this series. Of course, next series, whoever we come up against, that might be a different conversation. But right now, I'm concentrated on this, so let's go.
Gosh, I can't believe the 70s.
Hey,
I've heard of I'm not into basketball, but I've heard of the Knicks, and it's just like, oh, that's a long time.
one of our announcers, who we do all love, all Knicks fans love him. He was on the team, and he's like old as shit, and he still dresses like he's in the 70s, but he's a great announcer because he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then, John, where can they find you?
You can find me at John_Kermel2 on the screen.
And John will definitely keep you up to date with the women's team as well.
Yes.
Remember, guys, Manchester United women's team versus Chelsea women's in the FA Cup final. What is the date of that?
Sunday the 14th of May. I think tickets will, the club will be giving tickets away. There'll be a section, but it'll originally, I think, go to women's season ticket holders, but then it'll go to men's season ticket holders and members as well, and then you'll be able to do that. So if you want to attend, it'd be great if people can come to the game. And that also we're playing Arsenal at Leeds Sports Village on Wednesday night in what is it's a tight battle between us, Chelsea, City, and Arsenal for the league and the top 3 Champions League places, and it'll be a crucial game on Wednesday night. So give the team a follow and all that. So but yeah, they're having a really good season. Let's hope we cap it off and make it a brilliant season.
Now, the Manchester United youth team filled out Old Trafford for the FA Cup youth final. I don't really have any doubts that Wembley will be packed, to be honest with you, for the women's FA Cup final. And whilst we're on the topic, make sure you do follow the All for United women's page as well on Twitter. They'll keep you up to date, obviously, with the women's team, everything that goes on. But as myself, you will find me on Twitter, Anton Brooks, AMB. That's just it. I only really talk about football. So if you're interested in that, make sure you give me a follow. But thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
John, I just had to check my bad. It was exactly 73, so it's now exactly 50 years.
Yeah.
It's not like Everton.
Incredible. Amazing.
But thank you very much, everybody who tuned in and commented, asking the questions and discussing in the comment section down below. And Stu as well, if you're still watching, it's all right. Manchester United won, the women's team won, Tottenham lost, Newcastle lost, Arsenal lost. It seems like a loss. I hope that you won your match as well.
And Leeds play Liverpool tomorrow.
Exactly. I hope you won. If you didn't, I'm disappointed. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next show. And I should see you guys next Sunday as well. Thank you very much.
Take care.